Do, do.
Should have no problems connecting today. We both have good Wi-Fi.
Hopefully. Fingers
Fingers
crossed.
crossed.
Yeah. There we are. We're live. Hello, I'm Lauren. Welcome to Everyday Magic Live. This is the gathering that we do every Wednesday, currently at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. However, I am currently traveling the globe, changing time zones frequently, and in a month and a half or so, I'll actually be going down under and flipping everything upside down. So, reserving the right to change the time. But for now, this is the time. And what we're doing here is walking you through the ancestral path to health, happiness, and freedom with the meat and the detail and the minutia, if you will, focused on the physical part to begin with. And then we sprinkle in seeds that you can begin working on right now to reclaim your sovereignty, to reclaim your connection to your body and to the earth. And so I bring the little seeds of inspiration and my knowledge as a primal health coach and life mastery consultant and meditation teacher and those things. And then I bring on a beautiful guest who is even more expert about our current subject, which happens to be nutrition. And so for several weeks now, Karen Langston and I have been getting together because she is the, hi, Peter. She is the nutrition guru. She knows very, very much about how your gut works, about how your body works, how different blood types require different food. And so please say welcome to my guest, Karen Langston.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. And this will actually be our last time to be together. Next week,
Hmm.
I'm going to be bringing on, we're going to move into a much shorter segment on exercise, which I put in quotes because movement to me is more easily and more joyfully incorporated into life than it is set aside as a separate activity. So a walk or hike through the beautiful countryside to me feels much more connected and natural and joyful than an hour on a treadmill, for instance. Now that's not to say that this is a really important point. You will, if you go back and listen to all of our videos, Karen and I often disagree on things, or her opinion is very strong about this, and my opinion is very strong about that. And the point is, you are the final authority, and you get to listen to any teacher and use your intuition and your knowledge and your interest and curiosity to delve into the things that interest you and to try things on, and that nobody has it right. Right, that you get to decide what works for you and to keep that and to let everything else go. Um, so, okay, here we go. Hang on, I'm experimenting with this. Okay, I can see us on the screen. I have us muted, so we'll see if I'm actually able to see who's joined and who hasn't. Hi, Dory, Corey,
Corey. Good
Corey,
morning,
Corey.
Corey and Peter.
Yeah, I saw Peter swoosh past real quickly. Um, Okay, so today, what we're talking about is supplements and wild foods and modern day challenges, which is a really big one because, as I am traveling around the world, I make it a point to try to get to rural areas where I can buy produce that was in the ground that very morning and I can meet the farmers, and it's much simpler if you're in a rural area to actually get to know where your food comes from than it is if you're in a high rise in the middle of a big giant city. And, of course, other modern day challenges as well, like soil depletion and things like that. So that's the big meaty topic that Karen and I are going to talk about. And also wild foods, which I know very little about. Um, I can recognize a dandelion and love to have a fresh spring salad with dandelion greens, but my education about wild foods is very, very limited. And then our seeds of and supplements. We're also going to talk about how to go about supplementing your diet with actual vitamins and minerals and things like that. But the seeds, the little seeds that you can begin planting in the garden that you are creating, that is your life for today, are to figure out a way to connect with your breath at least once a day for at least 1 minute. Now you'll notice that some of these things are repeated, and we come back to the breath because it's life. It's this brilliant miracle that happens, 12, 13, 15 times a minute for most of us as we're breathing normally. And so take just 1 minute to just notice and breathe intentionally, and notice if you are breathing shallowly into the top of your chest, and see if you can experiment with breathing into your abdomen and getting a full diaphragmatic breath so that the air is going to those receptacles in the bottom of your lungs and being used more efficiently for your body. And so let's just do that one this week. A minute a day. If you can do more, if you can do it more often, even better. But the more you can begin to notice your breathing and notice how you're holding your shoulders. I'm traveling with my sister right now, and she is perpetually feeling stressed, and you can see it in her shoulders. And I'm always just rest your shoulders, relax, relax, and just connect with your body and your breath. That's your seed for this week. All right. So, Karen, where do
Mm-hmm.
we start about supplements?
Um, okay. Oh, hold on one sec. Of course, all that time I didn't have a problem, then I had to clear my throat and at least put it on mute. Okay, so if we are talking about supplements, there are a ton that we could talk about, and some of the ones that you had suggested, Lauren, was magnesium, omega-3s. You talked about iodine and collagen, and then you also had down fermented foods. And I'm assuming it looks like Lauren has froze. At least I hope it's Lauren that has froze. And so when she comes back, I'm just going to keep talking. But it looks like we have Gabriella with us. Good morning, Gabriella, as well. Okay, so let's talk about magnesium first. I think magnesium is extremely important. There's over 500, I think it's more like 600 enzymatic processes that magnesium is required in our body. It helps to regulate blood pressure and blood sugar. And a lot of people, they deal with cramping in their legs or cramping in their feet, or they have cramps when they're running. Typically, it's that magnesium that's going to be low. And the reason why magnesium can go low, we can actually look at our diet. And that's because our diet, if it is very high in refined carbohydrates and or sugar, the sugar actually excites the central nervous system and depletes our, I want to say insulin, not really depleting the insulin, but magnesium is required for that insulin. So then you're having these blood sugar issues, and it depletes that magnesium quite quickly. And that's one of the reasons why you end up with those muscle cramps. And if you are to flex your muscle, in order to flex that muscle, you actually need calcium, but to relax that muscle, you require magnesium. And so when you are having a cramp, your cramp is like this because it's contracting, it's trying to use that calcium to contract, but it's now looking for that magnesium to allow it to relax. And because there isn't any magnesium, you have this constant cramping that's happening. So some of the symptoms, I guess, that you could look at with magnesium deficiency, of course, is the cramping. You might get twitches. A lot of people will get an eye twitch and they start taking magnesium and that twitch goes away. If you are feeling low in energy, magnesium can also affect your energy levels. Let's see, foods that are high in magnesium, if you didn't want to supplement, I always believe going to food first before supplements. So conch, so you know those beautiful shells that you see in the sea, they're kind of like a pink color. They're huge. You know, everybody's always looking for that big shell. That's usually your conch, so your sea conchs, very high in magnesium. Seafood is also high in magnesium. Hemp seeds, spinach, green leafy vegetables, and natto beans are really high in magnesium. And natto bean, which I'll talk more about when we get to our fermented foods. And then we can also look at cashews and bananas and amaranth as well for high magnesium. We can also look at omega-3 fatty acids. Super important again because they help support our vision. They're great for hormonal health. They also thin the blood naturally. So sometimes when I see somebody who's taking blood thinners, and again, if you're taking blood thinners, please don't stop taking your blood thinners. But I always think, how thick is your blood? How much omega-3 fatty acids are you getting? Because omega-3s can do a wonderful job of just thinning that blood. It also feeds our brain because our brain is 65% fat and it runs off of fat. So it's really important to get those omega-3 fatty acids. Wonderful for skin and hair. And it's a natural anti-wrinkle substance, I guess, or cure or magic potion. I don't know, however you want to look at it. But just going back to the whole skin thing and omega-3 fatty acids, if you have a lot of dry skin, typically your omega-3 fatty acids are low. And what's really interesting is that, if we're feeling dehydrated and our skin is dry, and a lot of experts will say, well, drink more water. Well, what if you are drinking lots of water, but you're still having this problem? It's more than likely the fact that you're low on the omega-3s. And what's really interesting about omega-3 fatty acids is that it creates like a dome. So when you drink that water, it stops it from being evaporated from your body. So it almost creates like a rainforest inside so that your skin stays nice and plump and supple and soft. So that's how it can make a difference with all of those wrinkles. Another big one is iodine. And I just feel that so many of us do not get enough iodine in our diet. And we mostly know about iodine when it comes to thyroid. Okay. And a lot of people say, okay, if you have problems with your thyroid, take iodine. It's 90% correct. And the only reason why I'm taking that 10% off is because if you are actually getting a proper thyroid test done, so that's your free T3, your free T4, your TSH, it might be that you are fine with iodine, but you actually need selenium. And selenium is a mineral that a lot of us are deficient in. But sticking to iodine, it is a trace element, and we actually need it not just for our thyroid, but for our entire gonad, so our reproductive system. It plays a huge role with our hormones and also plays a role in our eyes. And then just going back to thyroid for just a moment, if you're not getting that proper thyroid panel, what will happen is, let's say your iodine is low and that's affecting your thyroid. Well, that's actually affecting your iron metabolism as well. And I find that a lot of practitioners, like I said, they will only test that TSH, but they're not testing your ferritin, they're not testing your iron. And so you don't really know what type of thyroid deficiency you're having and what minerals you need to help correct that. Iodine, of course, is found high amounts in seafood and fish. It's also in our salt. Celtic sea salt is a wonderful, or even just sea salt in general. And you're looking for a deep sea salt. So the salt that's coming from the middle of the ocean, that's going to be higher in minerals in general, as well as that iodine. And there's also what's called red salt. Now that one is mined, I think it's specifically Utah. And what they are doing is they're mining it from the salt beds from the ocean that was once there, but is now just those salt beds. So red salt is also another, and I believe that's what it's called, is red salt. And it has a pinkish tinge to it. That one is also a really good one. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen any of my videos, my cooking videos. I think the last one, or maybe the one that's coming up, I can't remember. Anyway, I showed my shaker, and I have two shakers and they have all different types of salt. And that's just because, each region is going to have their particular minerals. And so I just think, why should we have one type of salt all the time when we can be taking in an abundance of minerals from, all over the world? So that's what I do is I have these two salt shakers and they have different salts in them. So some things that are high in seaweed, we said that fish and seafood, of course, are going to be high. And Lauren, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. And I know that I'm doing all the talking, and it's because Lauren has frozen, and hopefully she doesn't end this so that we can keep going. But anyway, I'm going to talk about it now. She was talking about wild foods, and I'm not really sure what wild food she wanted to talk about, but I can talk about wild vegetables that are grown by the sea. And the reason why I wanted to bring them in here is because any food that is grown by the sea is naturally going to be high in iodine because as the wind comes off of the ocean or the sea, it's bringing that iodine into the soil. Plus, there's more than likely water seepage underneath the soil, the parts that we can't see, and that's also bringing in a really good amount of minerals and that iodine. And so some of these wild vegetables we can look at, and I'll give them to you in just a moment. I just wanted to say that it's a really good idea to look locally for that professional forager that you can go and take a course with. There's so many. I got into mushrooms, for instance, and I wanted to start foraging mushrooms, but then I learned that they're right next to that wonderful mushroom that you could be eating is its toxic, poisonous culprit. And so I just think it's really important to find that expert who can help you with that foraging and make sure that you're picking the right vegetable to eat. So some of the vegetables that are grown near the seasides, you have sea beets. They're dark green. They're a wild plant. All of these are actually wild plants, and they grow in that sandy and rocky beach consistency. They're very well known across Europe, and you can eat the greens of that sea beet. There's also sea radish, and you can see this one by its yellow flowers. In fact, I will try and find pictures of these, and I'll stick them onto my Substack for when my podcast goes out about this. So hopefully Lauren will do the same thing. So we have sea beets that we talked about, sea radish. They've got these yellow flowers and on top, and it grows in the coastal areas, and it's more of a summer plant. So that again has lots of minerals and that iodine. And I'll just take a second here uh, to say hello to Billy. She joined us as well. Okay, and so Lauren has just popped into the messages. She says, "Hey, I'm still here, though I appear to just be hanging out and listening." Okay. All right, Lauren, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened, but you know what, Lauren? Since I can actually communicate with you, pop into the message what you want me to say, or if you have anything that I can answer. That's probably the best thing to do, so I know where you were going with this. And until you do that, I'm just going to continue with a couple of these wild sea vegetables. We have rose hips, and these are not the rose hips that we're used to. So if you're growing roses in your backyard, when all the petals fall off at the end of the year, you have like this little bulb. That's your rose hip. But the sea rose hips is different. It's a purple flower, and you can eat the flower, but do not eat the seeds. So this is why it's really a good idea to have that forager. We also have marsh samphire. It's also known as sea asparagus, and it grows in the wild on the banks of the northern seas. And you just pick it, it's very plump. And then we have creeping saltbush, it's a shrub. And then we have sea peas, and they look like snow peas, but they're tinged with this purple coloring. So again, I think it's really, I absolutely am going to be looking into this the next time that I'm at the sea. I'm going to be going to Washington, and I'm about 4 hours from the sea. So now I'm going to start looking for that forager course that I can take, because I just am fascinated with the whole wild thing. But Lauren, if you had other wild foods that you wanted to talk about, pop that into the messages. So next on our list, so we've covered iodine, the omega-3s, and the magnesium. Let's move on to collagen. And I think everybody on the planet knows about collagen thanks to all the marketing for the collagen. And I'm going to take a little bit of a different stance here, but in general, collagen, we know it supports skin elasticity, it helps with joint health, it reduces hair thinning and brittle nails. And, for some people, it'll actually give them a little bit more energy. Um, so collagen is derived from short chain amino acids, and it's also found in the connective tissues in our body, including our skin, our bones, and our cartilage. And if you are eating animal protein, it's also the same thing. It's found in the skin, the bones, the knuckles, and even in between it's what's it called? I think it's actually just called collagen. So like a jello, and it's also found in the cartilage. So in our body, these collagen peptides are created by breaking down the full length of the collagen molecules that we're bringing in from our animal proteins. And this is a process that's actually called hydrolysis. And basically, what it's doing is just making these collagen peptides easier for our body to digest and absorb. So that's what collagen is. Now, humans naturally produce collagen peptides as part of that collagen synthesis and that degradation process. So we are constantly breaking down collagen into these peptides as long as we are eating animal proteins. And collagen, of course, is coming from meat and fish, eggs, and dairy. And the supplemental form you'll find either from animal protein or fish collagen. I don't know if you've seen that or not. And there's also on the collagen supplements, I'll just add that there's collagen type 1, type 2, type 3. That's just a marketing gimmick. It actually means nothing. If anything, if you were to take a supplement, I don't think the supplements are worth it. Then look for one that has all three types in it. So you want the fish and the animal protein collagen. And the reason why I just don't think that we should be taking a collagen supplement is because number one, we do make it. Number two, if we were to question the collagen part, so that's why I gave you that information, I'm the type of person who wants to know what makes collagen, and that's where I do the backwards investigation. So we have collagen, what do we need to make collagen? And it's actually vitamin C. We need proline and glycine, which are amino acids, and we also need copper and zinc. So then that's when I start looking at our foods. Okay, so what foods are high in vitamin C? Maybe we need to be having more vitamin C in our diet. Proline and glycine, amino acids, are they low? Because they're also found in high amounts in collagen, but they play a part in that whole collagen synthesis. And copper and zinc. And what I find, I want to say about 60% of the population is low in zinc. And when zinc goes low, copper goes high. And so if we have this imbalanced ratio, that's going to affect our collagen synthesis. So that's why I like to look at, what's involved. So we need to look at vitamin C, proline, glycine, and copper and zinc. And if they're in good ratios, then we don't need a collagen supplement. And there is a small proportion of the population that if they take a collagen supplement, it's actually going to affect their brain, their moods. It can increase anxiety. It can cause depression for them. So if you are, taking collagen and you can't figure out why you're dealing with these, emotions or scattered thoughts or brain fog or feeling anxiety all of a sudden, pay attention to that collagen supplement because it could be that is affecting you negatively. And I think that was all that I really had to talk about when it came to, supplements in general. I guess I could talk about fermented foods. I think I forgot about that. So what foods have zinc? Lauren, foods that have zinc and also are going to have that copper. Uh, Animal proteins, again, seafood is also going to be high in zinc. And I know that, oh, pumpkin seeds are also very high in zinc. Thank you for catching that for me. And copper is usually found in most of the same foods that zinc are found in. And, one of the things that I can talk about just really quickly when it comes to zinc and copper, if you're dealing with a lot of um, the inability to process your emotions, you're up and down and you're having a lot of anxiety issues, that's where I would be actually testing your zinc and your copper. And you could get just a regular blood test for that, or you could actually go one step further and still do the blood test, but it's called RBC, which is red blood cells. You want to check how the zinc is doing in your red blood cells. And I would also throw vitamin B6 into that as well. And especially if you're vegan or vegetarian, the reason why I'm including that is because if you are vegan or vegetarian, you're not getting the zinc, the copper, the iodine, the magnesium from your animal sources. And it could be that you're very low, and that's why you're having those types of symptoms. And if you're taking medications, don't stop your medications. I'm just saying it doesn't hurt to check those. Because when they're low, they can affect your moods and behaviors. And there's also a percentage of the population that deals with pyroluria, which means they need more than the average person. So something to check out. So some of the modern challenges that let me finish up with the fermented food. When it comes to fermented food, and I think that this is probably where you were going with this, Lauren, uh, fermented foods, very well documented, to connecting between gut health and that cognitive function. And it also plays a crucial role with menopause. So fermented foods are really important. But we need to get back to the traditional way of making fermented foods. And we're looking at raw food. So, and please, if you're in North America, upgrade to raw or upgrade to organic. Number one, 100% needed. So things like cabbage and cucumbers, and we can also look at even making your own fermented dairy. What you want is a really good salt. So this is where I would turn to, what do you call it? Celtic sea salt or a sea salt. And all you're doing is putting that food into a jar. You're adding just enough water to cover it. You're putting your salt in, and you're allowing it, while you're doing this, being exposed to air. So it's getting the natural fermentation, those microbes in the air, the yeast that's in the air, and then you stick that lid on, and that's how you make your fermented vegetables. What's happening today is that we are looking at adding probiotics, and I do not think that that is necessary. And I think it's creating a lot of bacterial imbalances in the body. And that's causing a lot of gut health and skin issues that I'm seeing today. So if you're going to be looking in the stores for that traditional type of fermentation, because you don't want to do it yourself, I totally understand. What you want to do is look on the package and look for raw fermentation. That's the secret word, raw fermentation. Okay. It's because they're not putting additional probiotics in there. You just want it to be natural. And, check the back of the package and see where it's coming from. If you buy cabbage that's been fermented, maybe you want to, purchase it from different regions so that you're getting those different microbes, those different yeasts. And then the last thing that we'll talk about, and I guess I'm going to uh, finish up today's live, is talking about the modern challenges. Well, throughout this entire program that I've been a guest on with Lauren is the fact that the modern challenges are, first of all, not getting enough vegetables and, those berries and low carb fruits into your diet, not getting enough of the right animal protein. So we need to be looking for that pastured raised or 100% grass fed and finished. And then making sure that we're eating local so that we can talk with the farmers and also support the farmers and support that community around where that farmer is living. And then looking at organic, because we have foods that are being annihilated with toxic chemicals, and we just do not need that in our system. It's gumming up our physiology, our biology. So, getting that out as well. And then, once we're over the age of 50, we really have to be looking at putting a digestive enzyme in place, or at least finding out how well your liver is working, how well your pancreas is working, so that you are breaking this food down. And we're under a ton of stress today. And that is something, that our ancestors just didn't have. Well, they had stress. It was just different stress. We have a modern type of stress, and a lot of it is just the stress that we put on ourselves, but that also depletes our nutrients very, very quickly. So those are some of the modern challenges that I can think of. Another one is, we're not spending enough time outside. We're sitting way too long. We are meant to move at least an hour a day. And I know I get a lot of feedback from my clients who say, I don't want to move an hour a day. Well, how healthy do you really want to be? That's what it comes down to. I think that's all I can think of for modern challenges. Lauren, I don't know if you want to throw anything in there. And while she's going to put something in the comments, I will just go ahead and make sure that I say hello to Peter, Corey, Gabriella, Billy. Thank you for joining us. And let's see who else is on there. Perfect. Who else? Oh, got lots of Lauren, got Billy, and we have Sandra who joined us. Thank you, Sandra, for joining in. And I guess that's all that I have to say about this week. I'm so sorry that Lauren became frozen and it was our last time together. I do believe that she does her everyday magic on Wednesdays in the afternoon. I'm not sure what time. She didn't pop anything into the messages there. And Lauren said, not the last time forever, just the last time in our series. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today and working with me through the technical difficulties. And until next time, I hope every single one of you will take some kind of action today and start just improving and upgrading your lifestyle. So in Monet, thank you for joining me. And until next time, I will see you soon. Thank you. And I don't even know if she can end this.